Here is how I learned Japanese and tips and recommendations if you are looking to do the same. So I was lucky enough to study abroad in Japan for about 3 years. I studied at 3 different schools, and I utilized every program that was available to me through my college of UC Santa Cruz due to my major. I think that daily classes with a regimented schedule and teachers that would guide me was such a helpful thing for me to learn. The study process was honestly kind of daunting, and I think I probably would have given up if it wasn't for the fact that I was living in Japan and was able to use what I learned every day outside of class. If I learned new vocabulary, I was able to go out and practice it every day, whether I was ordering food, trying to make friends, or buying clothing. I came to Japan the first time through Osaka University, and I plan to only come here for about 2 months. I honestly never thought that I had the capacity to learn Japanese, and I really just wanted to come to experience someplace new. However, through the process of immersion, I really soon came to realize that I could have conversations more quickly than I thought I could be able to do. I also slowly was able to read menus and signs on stores, and that was really a huge source of motivation for me. I think if you can make it to that point, the rest will be much more smooth, and you can continue with your process without giving up. Japanese can be a tricky language, especially with the reading and writing process. The alphabet consists of 3 different writing styles, which is hiragana, katakana, and kanji. Hiragana is the phonetic alphabet, and it's the first thing you're going to be learning. Anything in Japanese can be spelled using hiragana. It is also the writing style used in most grammar, like the words et and there and an. Katakana is the same alphabet, but it has a slightly different, more angular image to it. And katakana is used for words that are not from the Japanese language traditionally, such as names of restaurants in English or other countries. Ramen is a word that traditionally comes from China, so that is written in katakana. So is McDonald's, which is McDonaldo. Out of all of this, for me, the most difficult thing was pronunciation of sounds that we don't really use in the English language. For example, ru is kind of in between the L sound and the R sound, like lu or ru. But the sound is made by the process of making the R sound without really touching the tongue to the top of your mouth, like ru, ru. Aside from pronunciation, the award for the most tricky part of Japanese goes to the 3rd form of writing styles. And the 3rd one, and most tricky by far, is kanji. And that is the Chinese character system that has the most complicated characters and almost about 5,000 different letters. For me, the most exciting part about learning Japanese was definitely having conversations with people. However, I do think learning the alphabet is imperative to that, because mentally connecting a word that you hear verbally to something that you can see visually really has a strong effect in learning the word well, I think. For class, our homework often consisted of writing the same word over and over again, and the repetition really helped me recall words when I needed to use them mentally. That was a 3-month language program, and it was based around the textbook called Genki, which I really recommend, and versions of that are also available for free online. So I really hope that monetary barriers aren't something that stops someone from learning. After the course, I did return home for the fall to resume my courses at UC Santa Cruz. This really leads me to my whole first point, which is that if you have the option to study abroad, that is the quickest way to learn a language and push past the first most difficult barrier. That barrier being how easy it is to give up if you don't have to hear and use the language every day. The process did require some money, and I did get a student loan that I am actually still paying back. I know that studying abroad is an option that many people can't afford or have the time for. However, here are some other options if that is not a course you can take. As far as I know, all over the United States, there are community and city colleges that offer very affordable Japanese courses. This comes with the same regimented schedule that I found so helpful. However, it also provides a community in which you can practice Japanese with other people. This also takes a lot of time, and I realize a lot of people are very busy, so self-study is something I'm going to get into in a little while. However, connections with people from Japan that you can actually hear the actual language from and practice speaking to, I think are a huge plus in learning the language. When I returned, Japanese classes were not something that were offered within my curriculum as a computer science major. However, I did manage to take classes at a local community college that also taught Japanese. My teacher's assistant was from Japan, and she helped me a lot with practicing and learning culture as well as language in the way that it's initially meant to be spoken. And I can't stress enough that conversation, I think, is so key to learning the language. This class was about 2 times a week, and I could fit it in with my other courses as well as my part-time job. My goal was really to go back to Japan to study abroad the next chance I got, so I really wanted to keep up my language practice skill. And I think that if you can keep up the motivation, daily practice and daily study is really important. And that does lead me to how to study Japanese if you don't have the time or resources to join a class. The internet and even cell phone applications provide a huge wealth of resources that really can provide anybody with the means to learn vocabulary and grammar, as well as reach out to Japanese people that are willing to help learn Japanese. I did use a cell phone application called Anki that was basically like virtual flashcards, and people are able to upload packets of vocabulary that they find helpful and that they find are important for tests that you can download and practice daily. I recommend, if possible, writing down each vocabulary word every day when you learn it. I still do the same here almost daily, and that helps me keep up my language capability and learn more difficult things, like knowing how to negotiate rent or learning how to discuss medical issues if I have to go to a doctor. I think the physical practice of writing something out also does help burn vocabulary words into your mind, which I think is very important. There's also a wealth of YouTube videos that help to learn different ways of speaking throughout the country, as well as wakamono hyogen, which is more like slang, which is not often taught in textbooks. For example, if you're meeting somebody in Kansai to go to a party, you say good morning to them, which is ohayo, even if it's in the evening time. Or also, to order a beer, you just say nama biru kudasai, which is basically asking for one fresh beer, and it will bring you the draft beer of their choice. The textbook I mentioned earlier, Genki, is also available online if you have the discipline to really force through a regimented schedule on your own. I think honestly having the pressure of a test coming up really helps me study through the night in a way that I probably wouldn't have been able to do if I was studying on my own. However, if you have motivation to really experience the culture, I think that's a great way for you to push through any sort of difficult study practice. And motivation also comes from a desire to communicate with somebody. That leads me to the free app called Hello Talk, which is a great way to meet pen pals virtually through an application. You can make a profile and say your language ability and say the language you desire to learn, and people will connect with you based on the language that they wish to learn and also the language that they speak fluently. I connected with several people that actually became pretty good friends of mine, and practicing what I learned every day, just studying by myself, was very helpful as well. When I came to Japan again to study abroad, I actually met up with him, and several of them are still very good friends of mine. Having to reply to a text message is also a great way to keep oneself motivated to study a new language and learn things, even through Google Translate. So eventually, after a year of being back in Los Angeles studying, I was able to finish my major courses and come back to Japan. I petitioned with my counselor to be able to spend another year in college and study abroad at two separate programs. The first one in Tsudabunka Daigaku, which is a university in Yamanashi, which is more of a rural area, or called Inaka. And then the second one was Doshisha University in Kyoto. And Kyoto was such an amazing experience. I can't imagine anything comparing to my life was there. It took about half a year from the time I began studying the language to the time I was able to communicate with people. And it took about, I would say, 3 years to be able to pass the test that gave me language certification, as well as be able to work here and do things in Japan that required a certain amount of linguistic responsibility. I do know many people that have done it in a quicker period of time, and also people that have done it in a longer period of time. And I think everyone has to learn at their own pace. But after the first element of a steep learning curve in which you're not really fully able to communicate with somebody, I think it becomes really an enjoyable process of learning daily. I think the final thing that really helped me to get to a conversational level in Japanese when I studied abroad was joining circles and clubs for sports and interests at my local college, and that helped me connect with people that I could share an interest with and learn the Japanese language through events and through parties and such. Honestly, speaking a new language can be kind of nerve-wracking, and I think if you have a couple drinks with somebody, that sort of nervous nature really goes away and you're really more able to speak freely, even if it's not the most healthy way to go about language learning. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I will elaborate maybe in a part 2. If you like this content, please subscribe, and if you have any recommendations for videos I should make, please comment and let me know. I also have a TikTok called Wes Mathur 0, which I have a lot of similar content on, as well as an Instagram where you can see my media work. Thank you for watching, and I really wish you the best of luck with learning a different language. I think at the end of the day, the main tip I could really give is not to give up, because it is much more doable than I did initially think. And now I can live here in Japan and communicate with anybody fluently. It's very exciting for me. Thank you.